So let's start with Module 1, Introduction to Microsoft Azure. So organizations are increasingly moving IT workloads to the cloud. So IT professionals like us need to understand the principles that form the basis of cloud solutions and learn how to deploy and manage cloud apps, services, and infrastructure. In particular, IT professionals who are planning to use Microsoft Azure must learn about the services that Azure provides and how to manage them. So this module will introduce us with cloud solutions in general and then focus on the services that Azure offers. The module goes on to describe the portals that you can use to manage Azure subscriptions and services before we jump onto the scripting module, that is Azure PowerShell and Azure Command Line Interface. And lastly, we will go ahead and talk about various resources like Azure Resource Manager and Azure Management Services. So after completing this module, we will be able to identify suitable applications for the cloud, identify services and capabilities that Azure provides. We'll be able to use Azure Portal to manage Azure services and subscription, use PowerShell and Command Line Interface to manage Azure services and subscription, use Azure Resource Manager, and how we can use Azure Management Services to extend the management and monitoring of Azure. Let's start off with lesson 1 and have an overview of cloud technology. So cloud computing plays an increasingly important role in IT infrastructure, and IT professionals need to be aware of fundamental cloud principles and techniques. In this particular lesson, we will introduce the cloud and describe the considerations for implementing the cloud-based infrastructure services. Cloud computing, or the cloud as we call it, has become the leading trend in IT. However, its definition is still ambiguous. We still get confused when we talk about it as a term. So trying to define the cloud in purely technological terms is very difficult. So it is best to think of it as being an abstract concept that encapsulates techniques used to provide computing services from a pool of shared resources. Most cloud solutions are built on virtualization technology, which abstracts physical hardware as a layer of virtualized resources for processing, memory, storage, and networking. Many cloud solutions add further layers of abstraction to define specific services that we can provision and also in the end use. So regardless of the specific technologies that organizations use to implement cloud computing solutions, the National Institute of Standards and Technology has identified that they exhibit these characteristics that are mentioned on the slide. The first one, as you see it, is on-demand self-service. Cloud services are generally provisioned as they are required and need minimal infrastructure configurations by the consumer. As a result, users of cloud services can quickly set up the resources they want, typically without having to involve IT specialists. Then it provides you with broad network access. Consumers generally access cloud services over a network connection, usually either a corporate network or the internet. Then you have resource pooling as a characteristic. So cloud services basically use a pool of hardware resources that consumers share. A hardware pool consists of hardware from multiple servers that are arranged in a single logical entity. It means that, for example, when we talk about these organizations which offer cloud computing or cloud services, they are using a load of resources in terms of hardware, and it might be possible that they might be collaborating with multiple organizations to pool in their resources as well to provide a single cloud solution for their customers. The next characteristic is rapid elasticity and is one of the most important characteristics. Why? because cloud services scale dynamically to obtain additional resources from the pool as workloads intensify, and they release resources automatically when no need for them exists. This means that if, for example, I'm creating a website and I'm hosting it on the cloud, for example, twitter.com. Now, right now, I know that twitter.com is in demand, so I will host it on the cloud. Cloud will provide me easily to scale up, which is very easy in the on-prem environment as well. I'll purchase new servers and host my website on it. But when my website is not in use in an on-prem environment, what are we going to do with the leftover servers? Are we going to throw it? No. So these services become redundant in an on-prem environment, while in the cloud it is easy for us to scale down as well. So this is one of the features, that is rapid elasticity. And the last one is that it is a measured service. Cloud services generally include a metering capability, making it possible to track relative resource usage by users of the service or subscribers. Now, there are various advantages of the cloud. It provides us with traditional data center based computing with a managed data center service. So with cloud computing, your service provider will manage your data center instead of you managing your data center. So you do not have to invest in infrastructure. You do not have to invest in IT resources, manpower, etc. need to manage that infrastructure. Therefore, it helps in reducing or completely eliminating the capital expenditure for it. Then it also lowers your operational cost. Why? Because it provides you pooled resources, elasticity, and virtualization technology, which can be easily used to host your servers, easily used to host your organizational needs. After that, it is also providing you with an excellent network capability, which is also one of the main characteristics and features of cloud, wherein organizations are able to provide you with every service that is being hosted in the cloud, because there is a network which is running all across the world in the name of these optic fibers and oceans, etc. We have our mail servers located all across, for example, in the American continent, while we might be sitting in Africa, or while we might be sitting in Korea, and our mailboxes will be hosted there. And how are we able to access it? Because we are getting a broad network access. So these are some of the characteristics and advantages of cloud computing. Let's move on to understand the three main deployment models of cloud. So cloud computing uses public, private, and hybrid cloud deployment model. Public clouds are infrastructure, platform, or application services that a cloud service provider delivers for access and consumption by multiple organizations. With public cloud services, the organization that signs up for the service does not have the management overhead that the private cloud model requires. However, this also means that the organization has less control of the infrastructure and services, because the service provider manages this for the organization. So in addition, the public cloud will host the infrastructure and services for multiple organizations, so it is multi-tenant. So you might also need to consider the potential data sovereignty implications of this model. While it provides you these big cloud names that we hear in terms of AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, they make sure that they have all the security compliances in place when it comes to protecting the data that they are hosting in their cloud environment. Then you have private cloud. So individual organizations privately own and manage private clouds. Private clouds offer benefits similar to those of public clouds, but are designed and security enhanced for a single organization's use. The organization manages and maintains the infrastructure for the private cloud in its data center. So one of the key benefits of this approach is that the organization has complete control over the cloud infrastructure and services that it provides. However, this model requires additional management and increases cost for the organization. The last option for hosting cloud is the hybrid cloud and is the cloud type hosting option, which is majorly used by large organizations who are planning to shift to the clouds. So in a hybrid cloud, a technology basically binds two separate clouds, that is your public and private, together for the specific purpose of obtaining resources from both. So you decide which elements of services and infrastructure to host privately and which to host in a public cloud. So for example, when you are creating again a website, let's consider twitter.com, what you can do is you can host your database servers in the cloud, so that as in when the data traffic increases, you can easily scale up the database servers and you can host your web servers in your on-prem environment. So these are some of the use cases of hybrid cloud hosting option. So many organizations use a hybrid model when extending to the cloud. That is, they begin to shift some elements of their application and infrastructure to the cloud. Sometimes an organization shifts an application and its supporting infrastructure to the cloud while maintaining the underlying database with its own infrastructure. So this approach might be useful to address security concerns with that particular database. Now that we have discussed different hosting options provided by the overhead of cloud computing, let's now talk about the different types of cloud services.